What's up guys, welcome to another very exciting tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a class morphism effect. So let's get started by creating a new comp, call it main comp. If you won't choose the vertical format, you can choose this preset, but I'll leave as it is. Press OK, go to layer, new, solid, call it DG, press OK, and go to effect, generate, gradient ramp. Now let's choose this radial ramp, go to color, maybe let's first bring this one down here. Sorry, let's select this one, bring it to the center, and this point, bring it down like that. That should be good. Now let's change the color to a color purple, and let's pick this color, press this and make it a little bit darker. I think we might need to brighten this color a little bit more. That looks good. Now a lot of time you will see some color bending happening. In order to minimize that, you can go here and hold Alt and click, change it to 16 bits per channel, and that will help reduce those color bending. Next, we can, if you want, you can add an effect. Make sure you select the layer, go to effect, noise, give it like 3% noise, so it will help to remove a lot of those bending, color bending. Alright guys, next we will create some background elements. Let's create a sphere. Let's go and left click and hold. You will see all these shapes. Select ellipse tool and make sure this layer is not selected, otherwise it will create a mask if you're selected. And drag it like this, create a shape. Make sure you hold Ctrl Shift. It will create a perfect circle. And let's name it sphere. Let's go to its properties and change its size to 2. And now you can barely see it. Let's go and change this to 3D. And now this one is on the front view, that's why the background disappeared. You have to change it to active camera. And then make sure this is on advanced 3D. And let's go to the geometry options. Select to convex, the bevel style, and give this 100. Now we have a 3D sphere, and let's go to the material options. Let's take this all the way down, specular, something like that, maybe like 90%. Let's go to the diffuse and turn this one a little bit up, something like that. And let's change this color, blue color, to something like blue color maybe. Go to transform and scale it up. Now we can kind of duplicate it, bring it here and push it in the Z space. And let's duplicate it again. Let's bring it here this time. Push it even farther. And let's duplicate this again. Bring it here maybe. And change its color to something like, maybe this color looks good, yellow. Let's push it into the Z space a little bit. That looks good. Maybe this one also, maybe this one is too big. Let's go to transform and scale it down a little bit. And duplicate it again. Maybe put it way behind like that. Push it in the Z space. And let's give it another maybe yellow color again. Because of the shade, I can't really pick the color. Anyway, let's try to match it. Or else you can go here, select this one, copy this, and go here, actually go here and paste it, Control V. Now it has the same color. And let's duplicate it again, push it into the Z space. Sorry, I think zoom in, bring it somewhere here. Now I think that will do. Well, let's give it a nice wiggle. Press P, Alt click, and type in wiggle. You can select this function here. Let's put 1,25. And now select this layer, go to edit. Go to edit. Actually, you have to select the property the expression is on. So you go to edit, copy expression only. And let's select all of these and Control V to give that nice wiggle. Looks like our comp is so long. Let's change it to maybe something like 10 seconds. Press N and right click right about here and trim to work area. Now we will have some wiggling spheres in the scene. Now you can change this to any color you like. Obviously, based on your design, you have to change the colors. And let's duplicate this one more time and maybe push it here a little bit, somewhere on here. That looks good. Now let's recompose all this, Control Shift C, and call it spheres. Now let's duplicate this, Control D, and you can solo this layer, go to Effect, Channel, 3D channels, 3D channel extract. So you select these, and the ones that are in white will be out of focus, so we need to make it. Let's turn this actually on. The one that are white will be out of focus. The one that are like in black will be in focus. So we need to make these layers, the ones in the front, like the big ones, we can kind of make it in focus, and the other ones out of focus. So let's try that. I think this looks good. Now go to Effect again, 3D channel, depth of field, and maximum radius to something like this will be good. So now we are done with that one. Turn this one off. Go to this layer, Effect, Blur, Camera, Lens Blur, And let's go and select that layer, which is 2, and effects and masks. Now add more depth of field, something like this. That looks good. You can refine this. You can go here and maybe change this one to a little bit lower. Something like that is good. Actually, I think 10 is good, and can mess around with this, but I'll just leave it. And now let's create the main shape. Let's go to the rectangle again. Make sure none of these layers are selected. Create a shape like this. Doesn't matter the color actually. So let's center it. That's good. Now let's call this one matte. And I have a texture I want to bring in right here, and let's switch the modes to reveal the track matte and track matte option. Drop down this menu and select the texture layer, or you can use the pick whip tool. That way, now you go here, to this layer and change it to Luma matte. Now you can see, actually you have to change the color of the texture to white. Whatever color you want, you can change that to the, so basically this scratches are kind of white, so you have to change it to white color. And now let's duplicate this matte layer, bring it above the texture, and let's bring texture below also. It doesn't matter actually its position, but I just want to keep things organized. So let's remove this one's track matte and go to, actually right click, layer style, bevel and emboss, and go to blending options, advanced blending, and turn this fill opacity to 0. Now we have a nice highlight and the shadow. Actually, I forgot to do one more thing. We should give this a nice rounded corner. Here you can change it to 20%, and now we have to do the same thing for this matte layer. So change it to 20%. So now we have nice rounded corners. And now let's adjust this bevel a little bit. Maybe let's bring the size down to something like 2 maybe. 2 looks good. And let's add a nice layer style stroke and give it maybe like 1 pixel and change the color to background color. And let's turn its opacity actually to something like 40%. Okay, that looks good. Let's also add a shadow, drop shadow. Let's go to drop shadow. Where is the drop shadow? Here it is. And now we can increase the size. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. I'm changing the size to something like that, and let's change its opacity to something like 30%, So that looks good, and let's call it bevel, I guess. Alright, so now again let's duplicate this layer, bring it below the texture and call it maybe let's call it blur, and let's go ahead and add a blur, Gaussian blur, give it like 50%. Yeah, 50% is good. And now we need to get rid of this track matte, actually say no track matte, and go to toggle switches, the mode switch, and turn this one. It becomes a adjustment layer. So now you can see the things behind this panel is all blurred, and now we need to parent all these shapes to the texture layer. So let's go ahead and do that. Parent it, and let's select these two layers, also parent it to this one. That way if I move this texture layer, the scratches also will move with it. Now I see that the scratches are actually kind of too intense, so let's go ahead and add a color correction curves effect, bring the brightness down a little bit, alpha, basically RGB, and I think this looks good. And let's go to opacity, press T, bring it down to something like 85%, looks good. And let's add one more effect, go to distort, turbulent displays, and you can mess around with this to see what kind of effect you want it to have. I think this looks good. Next, we are going to bring in some typography. Let's actually give this one a nice wiggle too. Press P, Alt click, and type wiggle. There it is, the function. You can select it and put 0.2, comma, maybe let's say 100. Now it will slowly float, just like that. I think we can change the render to maybe half. Just want to show you how it is loading, I guess. Now you can see it floats. Let's maybe preview this area. Now let's bring in some typography. I kind of went ahead and created that earlier, so I brought in already. This there's a comp with some text, logos, and shapes. Nothing too complicated. Just create a comp and create your own design of laying out all these text and shapes. That's just that it is. And now let's go and drop it here and kind of align it to where you want it to be. I think probably hold Control and eyeball it to put where you just like to put it. Somewhere like this is good. And now let's parent it to the texture layer. Now it will move with it. So now this is how it looks. Let's make a quick preview and let me show you. This looks really nice. I like it. And I've created previously I've created tutorial about a carousel. I think you can use these kind of frames for your social media. You can learn how to create that carousel effect and then switch with those frames with this kind of design, and it will look really cool. And don't forget to check that tutorial. Make sure you go and take a look at that tutorial. Also, let's give this glass panel some kind of color. Let's duplicate this Ctrl D, the bevel, and let's go ahead and remove the layer style. And go to Effect, Generate, Light Sweep. And go to this light reception, change it to cutout. Now let's change the width a whole bunch. Let's take the intensity to see a little bit. Later we can bring it down. Let's change this one to 0. Edge intensity, we don't need it. And let's change this angle to something like this. And bring it here, somewhere on here. And let's bring the intensity down now. Maybe something like that. Let's try and change the color to something like lighter blue color. That looks good. So now it looks very realistic glass look. If it looks too bright, you can always go here and press T and bring the opacity down to something like 60%. So that's how you change the colors. So let's go ahead and change another color maybe. You can always change the color based on your background, I'll just leave it this light blue color and it looks nice. And also I think this stroke layer color is kind of weird. So let's go and change that color. Go to bevel and layer style. Let's go to the stroke and change this color to white. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. And don't forget to check out the carousel tutorial. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.